All right, so today we're going to be looking at the power of storytelling. We're going to crack open this book, The $8 Million Secret, and it's really got me thinking differently about how we communicate.
Interesting.
Yeah, imagine having that Super Bowl commercial level of attention,
Oh, wow.
but in your everyday life. That's kind of what we're going to be exploring.
Compelling idea, isn't it? And the book argues that anyone can leverage these storytelling techniques too,
Really?
not just advertisers, to achieve success in all areas of life.
Yeah, so break it down for me. Why are these Super Bowl ads so effective?
Well,
I mean, we all know they cost a fortune, but what's that secret sauce?
I think they tap into our deepest desires.
Mhm.
You know, those human needs that we all share: certainty, variety, connection, significance, and growth contribution.
Right.
Super Bowl ads, especially the really good ones, they hit those needs right on the head.
Yeah,
And we can't help but be drawn in.
that makes sense. I remember that Google Gemini ad from last year.
Yes.
The one with the grandma learning to use the internet.
Uh-huh.
Wasn't flashy or anything.
Right. But it really tugged at the heartstrings. Exactly. It showed relatable struggles, that desire for connection and growth, and it left viewers feeling hopeful and inspired.
Yeah.
And that's what the authors of The $8 Million Secret argue, that we can achieve that same effect, that same emotional resonance in our own lives without the multi-million-dollar budget.
Okay, now we're talking.
Right.
So how do they suggest we do that?
Well, they reveal this hidden formula behind these successful ads.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about connecting with emotions and aspirations.
Okay.
What's fascinating is this formula can be applied to pretty much anything.
Oh, really?
Personal goals, business pitches, even just everyday conversations.
So it's like learning the secret code to influence and connect with people.
Kinda.
Tell me more about this formula.
Okay, well, one key principle they highlight is that sometimes less is more.
Interesting.
Think about those incredibly effective Doritos Super Bowl ads. Often they have little to no dialogue,
Right.
but they still manage to tell a complete story.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. That one with the dog bribing the cat with Doritos to keep quiet.
Oh, yeah.
Hilarious. But why does that work so well?
Well, I think it taps into our innate curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
We crave what we can't have.
Yeah.
A story with a little mystery keeps us hooked. Plus, there's the shared joy of finally getting it.
Right.
That ha moment that makes us want to share it with others.
So how do we apply that Doritos principle to, say, our personal goals?
Well,
It's not like I'm going to make a silent film about my dream of running a marathon.
right, of course. It's not about literal silence. It's about focusing on the essence of your story, the core message you want to convey. Think about the journey, the obstacles, the small victories along the way.
Mm.
Those are the elements that people connect with. It's not just about the finish line. It's about the compelling narrative you build around it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's about creating intrigue, leaving people wanting more. It's about building anticipation and then delivering a payoff that resonates.
That clicks. So it's about crafting a story around the goal, not just focusing on the goal itself.
Exactly.
It makes me think of that Jeep Super Bowl ad.
Oh, yeah.
They weren't just selling a car, were they?
Not at all. They were selling a feeling, freedom, adventure,
Right.
the open road.
Yeah.
You know, they tapped into that universal longing to
Mhm.
break free from the mundane and explore new horizons.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's interesting because the book argues that true freedom,
Okay.
the kind that resonates deep within us, isn't just handed to us.
Mhm.
It's earned.
I like that. So it's not just about dreaming of freedom. It's about actively creating it
Right.
through our choices and actions. It reminds me of that Rocket Mortgage Super Bowl ad
Uh-huh.
with country roads playing in the background.
Yep.
On the surface, it seemed like a mortgage ad,
Right.
but it was so much more than that.
Absolutely. It tapped into that deep-seated yearning for home, for a sense of belonging, for building a life on your own terms.
Yeah.
You know, it spoke to those fundamental human needs
Uh-huh.
for stability and connection. And you know what's remarkable is that home
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a physical place.
Right.
It can be a feeling,
Okay.
a state of mind, a sense of community.
That's a really powerful point.
Yeah.
So we've seen how these Super Bowl ads tap into these universal desires.
Right.
But the million-dollar question is,
Yeah.
how do we, the everyday folks,
Right.
without those massive advertising budgets,
Yeah.
apply these principles to our own lives?
That's where it gets really interesting. The book argues that we don't need millions to be effective storytellers.
Oh, really?
We're already telling stories all the time,
Okay.
whether we realize it or not. Every conversation, every interaction is an opportunity to share our narrative.
So it's about being more mindful of how we communicate,
Exactly.
of the stories we're telling
Yes.
in every interaction.
Right.
But how do we make those stories compelling? Do we
Well,
all need to become master orders?
not necessarily. Authenticity is key.
Okay.
The most powerful stories come from a place of genuine connection, from sharing your struggles and triumphs in a way that resonates with others.
Right.
Think about it, those perfectly polished, airbrushed stories, they often lack depth.
Yeah.
They don't grab us. It's the wrong, honest narratives that truly connect.
It's about being relatable.
Yes.
Showing our human side.
Exactly.
So how do we balance that vulnerability with, still achieving our goals?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we're not just telling stories for fun.
Yeah.
We're trying to influence outcomes.
Right. That's where the book's concept of the most important sale comes into play. And that sale is...
To ourselves, right? Believing in our own story and our
Yes.
own capabilities is the foundation for everything else.
Exactly.
If we don't buy into our own narrative,
Uh-huh.
how can we expect anyone else to?
Precisely. And that belief in ourselves, that inner confidence shines through in our storytelling.
Yeah.
It gives our words weight.
Mm-hmm.
It makes people lean in and listen.
Okay, so we need to be authentic. We need to believe in our own story.
Yes.
But then how do we actually apply these storytelling techniques to, say, a business presentation or a job interview?
Think about it this way. You're not just presenting data or listing qualifications. You're painting a picture.
Okay.
You're taking your audience on a journey.
So instead of just saying, I increased sales by 15%,
Right.
I could tell a story about the challenges I faced, the strategies I implemented,
Uh-huh.
and the ultimate victory of exceeding those sales goals.
Exactly. You're not just stating a fact. You're creating an experience.
Okay,
You're drawing your audience and making them feel like they're part of your journey.
that's brilliant. It makes the information more memorable, more impactful.
Right.
But what about those times when we're trying to convince someone who's resistant to our message?
Wow.
How do we use storytelling to break through that resistance?
That's where empathy comes in.
Okay,
Before you can craft a story that resonates, you need to understand their perspective.
okay.
What are their fears, their motivations, their objections?
So it's about meeting them where they are,
Yes.
acknowledging their perspective, and then weaving a narrative that addresses those concerns
Uh-huh.
while still moving them closer to our point of view.
Exactly. And sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones that highlight shared experiences, common ground.
Right.
It's about building a bridge of understanding through relatable narratives.
This is starting to feel less like marketing and more like human connection.
Yeah.
It's about understanding people on a deeper level and using storytelling as a way to build rapport, trust, and ultimately influence.
And that's what's so fascinating about this whole concept. Storytelling isn't just a tool for selling products or winning arguments. It's a fundamental aspect of human communication.
Wow.
It's how we connect, how we share knowledge, how we make sense of the world around us.
So what's the $8 million takeaway here? What's the one thing our listeners should walk away with?
The power of story lies within each of us.
Okay.
We all have a story to tell, and those stories have the potential to inspire, to persuade, to connect us in profound ways. Don't underestimate the power of your narrative. Embrace it, refine it, and share it with the world.
I love that it's not just about mastering some fancy techniques. It's about tapping into that innate human ability to connect through story.
Right.
But before we send our listeners off to craft their own epic narratives,
Yeah.
let's unpack one more key concept from the book.
Okay.
They talk about the hero's journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is where things get really interesting. This idea of the hero's journey, it feels kind of like something out of a Hollywood movie.
Right.
But the book suggests it's a structure we can use to tell more compelling stories in our own lives.
It's a classic storytelling structure, and it's incredibly powerful because it resonates with something deep within us. Think about any great story, Star Wars, Harry Potter, even those classic myths and legends. They all follow a similar pattern.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Walk me through it.
Okay, so imagine a hero
Okay,
starting in an ordinary world.
right.
They receive a call to adventure, something that pushes them outside their comfort zone.
Okay.
They face challenges, they're tempted to give up, but ultimately they overcome adversity and return transformed by the experience.
I'm seeing it now. Luke Skywalker leaving Tatooine to join the rebellion. Harry Potter discovering he's a wizard and leaving the Dursleys behind. They're all answering a call to something bigger.
Exactly.
But how does this apply to, our everyday lives?
Right.
My ordinary world isn't exactly filled with spaceships and magic wands.
Right. That's the beauty of it. The hero's journey is a metaphor for our own personal growth. Think about a challenge you faced recently.
Okay.
Something that pushed you to your limits.
Okay. Let's say it's that presentation I have to give at work next week.
Okay.
It's a big opportunity, but it's also pretty intimidating.
There's your call to adventure. You're being asked to step outside your comfort zone to face your fears. Now think about the challenges you might encounter.
Well, there's the obvious public speaking jitters. Plus, I need to gather all this data, make sure my arguments are solid, and anticipate those tough questions from the executives.
Those are your trials, the obstacles you have to overcome. And what about those internal challenges?
Oh, yeah.
Those doubts and fears that whisper, you're not good enough, or what if you mess up?
Oh, those are definitely there. It's like a constant battle in my mind.
And that, my friend, is the internal struggle, the temptation to give up, to retreat back to the safety of your ordinary world. But the hero's journey is about pushing through those doubts, about proving to yourself that you're capable of more than you thought possible.
So how do I, the hero of my own presentation story, conquer these challenges?
By preparing diligently, by practicing your delivery, by visualizing success, and by reminding yourself why this opportunity matters to you. The hero's journey isn't about being fearless.
Right.
It's about facing those fears and finding the courage to keep moving forward.
I love that. It's about transforming those fears into fuel, into motivation. And what about the ending of my story? How do I ensure it's a triumphant return?
Well, think about the lesson you learn along the way,
Mm-hmm.
the insights you gain from facing those challenges, and how do those experiences shape you? Maybe you discover a newfound confidence in your abilities,
Okay.
or you realize that you're more resilient than you thought.
So it's not just about delivering a flawless presentation.
Right.
It's about the personal growth that happens behind the scenes.
Exactly. The hero's journey is as much about internal transformation as it is about external achievements. And remember, the most compelling stories often leave the audience with something to ponder,
Yeah.
a question to consider, or an invitation to embark on their own journey.
So as I wrap up my presentation, maybe I challenge my audience to embrace their own calls, to adventure, to step outside their comfort zones and pursue their own goals with courage and conviction.
Now you're thinking like a true storytelling. You're not just conveying information. You're inspiring action. You're leaving a lasting impact. And that's what the hero's journey is all about.
This has been incredibly insightful. We've gone from Super Bowl commercials to the hero's journey,
I know, right?
and it all ties back to this core idea that we all have the power to shape our own narratives, to use storytelling as a tool for connection, influence, and personal growth.
And ultimately, that's the $8 million secret so compelling. It's not just about learning some tricks of the trade. It's about recognizing the power that lies within each of us to craft our own stories and to share those stories with the world.
What a fantastic deep dive. I hope our listeners are feeling as inspired as I am to embrace their inner storyteller and to start crafting their own epic journeys. Remember, your story matters, and the world is waiting to hear it.